Hello and welcome back. I have returned. Been a bit busy recently, so I do apologize. But today we're going to look at API observability and what it means to you as a Laravel developer. So first thing, what is API observability? There's many ways people would explain this, but personally, it's all about understanding what's going on in your API, basically. And what we do at Treble is enable you to do that. So I've created a project on Treble. Here it is up here, API boilerplate. I've got some code here. I've come back to Arc. You can see that I've got a Laravel application. And what we're going to do is build an API, look at how we can observe it as we're building it to see what we can be doing better. So let's just dig in. So I may switch between views a few times. Actually, if I put that over here, I should be able to see the chat still. How's that view for everybody? Is it okay? Big enough? Small enough? You might even say he gives a fig. I definitely give a fig. I recently joined the PHP Fig as a core committee member, and it's a lot of fun, surprisingly. What I'm going to do, I'm going to focus in on the code, and we're just going to get some stuff done. So let's just make this a little bit bigger. Everybody can see. And there we go. Watching all the way from Ghana. Well, hello from Ghana. It's good to have you with us. You are probably having much nicer weather than me. Okay, so this is a Laravel Jetstream application. And what I like to do first off is to grab these. It's a brand new application, so I don't need to do any sort of adjustment things going on because that just doesn't make sense, right? With a new Laravel app, I don't need to do that. I can just do this. Remove that. Then we're going to drop that up. We're going to drop that up and that one as well. There's some timestamps. Profile photo, we're going to move up to like, I don't know, here. Going to grab that email verified app. I'm going to drop this at the bottom. And we're not going to have teams on this one, I don't think. I'm pretty sure I said no teams. Yeah, I did. Cool. So there's that. Here's some of this, a little bit of this and that. So we're building an API boilerplate application. So I saw something really interesting on Twitter. Auto-generated documentation and SDKs, auto-scaling and automated CI/CD, API key management, credits and pay-as-you-go, an example of a ready API. I can do a lot of that with Laravel, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to walk through building this API boilerplate that people want to see, and I'm going to add some API observability to it because there's nothing more important than knowing what's going on in your API. First off, we're going to say UUID for the user because why wouldn't we, to put it bluntly? Down here, we're going to swap this to a foreign UUID that's already indexed. So we're going to constrain it and cascade it. May as well do it properly, right? So what we've got is we've got our timestamps, two-factor information, user information, and our identifier. And what I like to do is just put on a soft delete because soft deletes are useful, right? Hello from Belgium. So that is all of that. And what I can do now is just delete that. And this is going to bug me if I don't fix these. So I apologize. This isn't anything to do with the stream, but it will really bug me if I don't fix these files. That's the other good thing about having a boilerplate, is that everything's built to the way that you like it. So fix all of that, make these static, make that static. Hello from Nigeria. We're going all over the globe today. And let's declare strict types on that. And then let's Laravel pint on all of it, and let's declare that static. And this will be a UUID morph. And that is all of our migrations good to go. So let's come over to our factory quickly. Let's clean this up. We're not going to have any sort of teams. I'm ignoring the unverified. And we're just going to remove all of this that I don't need, like that. Then we're just going to fix the whole file. Let's add dot block to say that we are returning an array that is string mixed. Finally, the model that we're going to use is that user model. And again, we can do a quick dot block, class string on that, and that is a class string of type model. And there we go. We've got things looking nice. Now, we're not going to use this fake method because, well, why would we? Why would we have to check if there's something bound to the container when we've already got it inside the class we're extending? Oh, another person from Ghana. Fantastic. So we got loads of people. And Alex has got to run to a meeting, but good to see you, buddy. So now let's come over to this user. Let's delete that. Pint implements must verify email. Then we've got a soft deletes and use has UIDs, making sure we're following as many PSRs in terms of styling as possible. Although technically, I think I follow PER now for my code standards, or as close to PER as I can without it annoying me, right? I don't think anyone's super strict on that one. There's some int strings. Let's do some int strings because we all like int strings. And again, down here, let's just grab that to save ourselves some time. And there we go. So that's our user model all set up. And is the resolution low? It shouldn't be. Let me check these settings quickly. Should be on high def. It could just be that I need to zoom in on my code a little bit more. How's that? That might be better for you. I do apologize. It's been a little while since I've streamed. What I'm going to do here is not echo, that's for sure. Declare some strict types, and let's just clean this up. So we're going to want a user by default, so we can create an API token. So let's say me. And there we go. And what we'll do is a migrate fresh and seed. Wait, what happened to you? Current team ID, insert into users. User factory. I missed something. Current team ID. No, thank you. And for this, I'm just going to say this Baker image URL. Let's make it nice and simple. And profile photo path for me. I'm just going to use the old GitHub trick and say https github.com, just steveking.png. There we go. And let's try that again. Perfect. All right, let's come back to Arc. And what we're going to do is log in as me. And here's me. Come to my profile. Let's just come and check the config for Jetstream features. Let's fit that on file and come back to here, refresh. Not loading, not a big deal. Right, okay, so we do have API tokens and we can create an API token because we're using Laravel Jetstream. So what we want to look at here is let's build out this API a little bit, right? So first things first, we want to look at our routes. And what I do with my routes is I create directories within routes like API, console, and web. Then I just configure them in Bootstrap app and just change them. It's that simple. So what I want is I want to version my API. So I'm going to create a v1 directory here, and we're going to create a routes.php file. Declare specific types, and we want to use that. So down here, we're going to remove this because it's not super useful. Instead, we're going to say root prefix v1 as v1 or API v1, should I say, and we're going to group on the base path routes API v1 routes.php. Now I don't need that anymore. For the profile picture, do you have to activate the link of a storage directory? I believe so. So I think if I do a storage link, already exists. We'll have a look at that in a minute. So we've got API routes there. Currently, not a lot going on. Lots of kind of front-endy stuff. So if we just pipe that into a grep for API, we've got the API tokens only so far. So over here, this is our v1 routes. What we want is we are going to have something like, let's just do like a GET request for profile name profile. This is just like a test right now. So what can we do? Give me an example of a model that I could create. Let's throw it out there. Let's do, I don't know, bookmarks. This is a bookmarking service. Hey, make model bookmark MF. Create the migration in our factory, and let's just get this done. So in our migrations, create bookmarks table. This is an API or an application that allows you to send your bookmarks away from just Chrome, and you could probably sync them across browsers, blah, 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 all that kind of fun stuff that you could potentially do. So here's a UUID for the ID, and we're going to say primary. This is going to belong to a user, so we want a foreign UUID for that user ID. It will be indexed, constrained, and we will cascade on delete. A little bit of tidy up. So table, string, we're going to get title, but we're going to make the title nullable. Then we're going to say table, string, and the URL. Fix all of that. And what we want on here is table, we want to uniquely bind where the URL and the user ID is added. So the same user can't add the same bookmark because that's a waste of time, right? Adding the same bookmark a million times, who needs that? Who needs that, right? So let's come to our bookmark factory. Let's just delete some stuff here. Hey, Daryl. Delete that. Let's just have a pint it. And we will say that the title for now is just going to be this faker sentence. And the URL is going to be this Baker unique URL, and the user ID is going to be a user factory. We're going to return an array, a string and mixed. I could spell string, of course. One of those days already. And the model is a bookmark class. And this is a class string of type model. So come over to bookmark. We have a factory, has a UID. Let's add in these fillable. Array of int string. So we're going to have a title, URL, and user ID. Then we're going to say public function user is belongs to, return this belongs to, related is a user, and the foreign key is that user ID itself. This will return the belongs to as well. There we go. Why do you add doc types? It's a habit, I think, mostly. Just something that I do, to be honest. Static analysis, magic. You know, I'm going to be doing things like this anyway to declare what the iterable types in an array are. So I don't like to only do half a job personally. So if I'm going to doc block things where there's an array, I'm always going to doc block things where there are other things as well. Quick sip of coffee. We're good. Right. What we want to do quickly is a migrate fresh and seed. Cool. So let's create some bookmarks for our user. So this is going to be our user. Bookmark factory for user count 10 create. Cool. That's what we want. Let's run that again. We've got 10 bookmarks. Yeah, exactly. Useful for PHP Stan and for older documentation generators. So if I was like using, what's it called? PHP Documenter, I think it was. Super useful. Right, so that is that. And now if we come over to actually what I wanted to do, which is, you know, an API, I'm going to create a new file in here called bookmarks.php. Where we're going to use the facade, there you are. Right, so we're going to get all of the users, call it index. We're going to get all of the users bookmarks, basically. So inside here, we want to say root prefix bookmarks as bookmarks. And we're going to group. I cannot see that. There we go, group. And then we're going to say base path groups API v1 bookmarks.php. So now up here, I can say inside HTTP controllers, let's just delete that one because it's not needed. We're going to create an API v1 bookmarks. And we're going to create an index controller. This will be invocable, public function invoke. This will accept a request and it will return a response in a little moment. So over here, what we then want to do is say index controller class. What we can do, because this is all for bookmarks, I can just simplify this whole URL there. So now if we do that, we can see that we can get API v1 and bookmarks. So let's open up something to send some requests, I guess. So I'm using Aspen here. So what I'm going to do is http boilerplate.test API v1 bookmarks. And the headers, I want to accept application JSON. Send. Cool. My server is responding at this point, right? Not everybody uses PHP Storm. That's their problem, not ours. That is true, but at the same time, it's nice to kind of think about people, right? So here's that. Let's just wait for this to actually work. So, blah. I haven't added the middleware yet. So over in our routes for our API, over here, let's say root middleware, treble middleware, and we're just going to wrap all of this Let's simplify that quickly. Static void, blah, blah, blah. Yep, copy and drop that in. And there we go. So we're going to wrap our whole API in the treble middleware. So now if we come back to Aspen, send it again, we're good. Wait for this to hit the server, and there we go. We are where we've got API observability up and running. So performance, security, and quality is all being measured. So I can come through and I can see the requests that are coming through. Good load time, small response size, came from a desktop, not really any threats going on. You can view the request at this point, and we can see that we are versioning. In the GET request, got a 200 response, detected it was a Laravel project, and we are starting to build out our Open API specification. Fantastic. So what do we need on this? First things first, let's look at how we might authenticate at this point. So if we want to access bookmarks, we are going to want to basically authenticate, right? Inside here, what I like to do is a middleware auth sanctum, and then I will group everything. So we'll do a static function, return void, and this is where we will register lots of routes. So anything that needs authentication is registered inside this loop here. Hey, Gary. Yep, back after a while. I thought I'd do some streaming on API observability, how it works, what you can do with it, and how it helps. I was actually really skeptical beforehand, just because it was like, oh, it's just another one of those names, right? So we're getting unauthenticated at this point. So what we want to do is come over to here. We want to create an API token, and token for live stream. And we want to be able to create, update, read, and delete for now. Oh, yeah, reload it. And let's just log back in. Token for live stream. And we want to do all the things, create it, copy it, close, perfect. Come back over to here, headers, we can say authorization is going to be bearer, and then our token. I'll send it again, and we're authenticating. And we can see that because if we come back to treble, come back to our requests, you can see we got another request coming through here. And we can see that we were authenticated through the header using authorization. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn real time on. So anytime I make a request, we should see it appear in here. What we're seeing so far is that we've got a fast load time, which is good, but we've got 0 bytes on the response size. We're not sending anything back yet. So if we come over to our index controller, we want to return a response at this point. So if we come to HTTP, the way I like to do this is to create a responses class. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a collection response. So we want to return a collection of bookmarks. We want to return a collection of something. This is going to implement responsible, which means it needs to have that to response going on here. So we are going to say that this returns a JSON response, and we will say return new JSON response where the data for now is an array, and the status is, well, it's going to be 200, but we're going to want to do something a little bit nicer there. So let's just quickly composer require just speaking. I believe I've got most things in SDK tools these days. Fantastic. So what I can do instead is say status, okay, value, perfect. So we've got that. So we need to think about how we pass that information down. First things first, let's make a resource, and we want to version these. So bookmark resource. So if we come over to our bookmark resource, this is what we will return from our API. Let's just remove that for now and say that the property bookmark the resource. And we want to return an array. This array is going to be string next for now. So we've got an ID, this resource ID. A bookmark has a title, this resource title. It's got a URL, this resource URL. It's got some other things as well, but for now, not super bothered about that. So this extends JSON resource. So we want to say that this collection response, we want to say public function. In the constructor, we want to pass in the data that we're going to be returning, right? So we are going to say that we have a private read-only anonymous resource collection as a collection. It's got collection, but I usually call this data. There you go. Make that read only, index controller. So what we can do is say return a new collection response where the data is, if we say public function construct, let's get the auth manager pulled in. So private read only auth manager auth, and down here we can say the data is a bookmark resource collection, where the resource is actually going to be this auth user bookmarks. So we need to open up the user and make sure we've added that relationship first. So here, what we will do, public function bookmarks has many. This has many. The related is a bookmark, and the foreign key is the user ID. Return has many. So there is that. That should all link nicely. This returns a collection response. This can then be fixed, and then this can be read-only. Quick question there. Is it possible to queue the request to treble so that when you have a high load, the request to that external service doesn't affect the performance? Yes, kind of. So the way that the treble middleware actually works, if I come down to here, is that it all happens in the terminate. So this is called when the process is finished. So your client has already received that response. And what Laravel will do, they'll get a signal from whatever PHP engine you're using, whether it be FPM, Apache, or Caddy, whatever that might be. It sends a terminate signal. And the Laravel framework at that point will trigger any middleware that has terminate methods on it in the chained order, basically. So this happens on the terminate. So once that client has already received that request, or response, should I say. So let's come back to here again and let's send it. We've got an array of objects. Each object is a bookmark. We can then look through the bookmarks, and yeah, the world is good. Let's come back to Arc, and if you can see there, that's already come through 14 seconds ago. We can view the request, and we can see this is what we got back, which is kind of cool. All looking good, all looking good. So what about if there's something in our API that we don't want to share? Let's go to vendor publish a second. And what we want to do is we want to publish a treble config quickly. So if we come down to the config, the treble, you'll see that ignored environments, masked fields are here. So let's say that we never want to share a URL. Makes sense, right? So if we come back to Arc, we'll see the next request that comes in. Make sure real time is on. Yep. So Aspen, send it again. Request has been received, and we're now hashing out the URL that's been given to us because we don't want to share that for some reason. You know, that could be something internal that you don't want to share. You just want to be able to kind of document that, you know, it receives a URL. I don't want you to know what it is, but there we go. Here's the JSON documentation. So we know that the ID is a string, title is a string, and a URL is a string. Here's the headers that we've got going on. Security audit. We're passing SQL injection, IP reputation, authorization. We're failing on the secure connection because we're not using HTTPS right now. But what we could probably do is if we come over to settings here, come to sites, and where's boilerplate? And let's just turn that on. Let me drop in my super duper secret password. Did I get my super duper secret password wrong? No, apparently not. Awesome. So what I should be able to do now is go here and say HTTPS send. Fantastic. Now if we come back, the next request that comes through is here. if we come down, we'll see that secure connection passed. What we're failing on now, we're not doing any rate limiting yet. We're not stopping any MIME sniffing. So we're not doing any content options. We're not forcing a secure connection. We're not stopping any potential embedding. We haven't got any CSPs set up, and we're not doing any method limiting. The response size is currently 1.6 kilobytes, which isn't great, but it could be worse. Overall, not too bad. You can see we've got an API score of 64 out of 100, which means that we're not doing bad on this one. We could add HTTP 2.3 support. Content encoding is working. Response size is okay. Load time. We've got JSON responses. We're doing versioning, but we are seeing some errors. So we saw an error here, and we can close that. That is now closed. Come back to our API score. We're looking good. Let's come over to our docs. You can see that we're automatically generating some docs here. We can see that V1 bookmarks, we get a response, which is an array of those. We can open this in Swagger. Try it out, execute. All looking good. Here's our Open API spec. It's noticed that we are using bearer auth. It's got the server URL already up there. Everything is all just working. Our Open API spec is being generated. We've got some API documentation here. And what we can do is we can pop open Alfred and say, create a Go struct that would represent a I don't know, bookmark and how I can implement this from a JSON response. So it will go ahead, do its magic, package main, blah, 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 blah. Here's the JSON data. Bookmark is going to unmarshal everything into a bookmark, and then we've got a bookmark to work with. So Alfred knows all. So then if we come back to our project, what we can start to do is look at these requests. You notice that the threat level is now lower. And we can start to add additional headers, such as method limiting. So allow header informs the client about the HTTP methods that are allowed by the API endpoint. So how could we do this in Laravel? Yeah, I'm going to publish all of this up to GitHub. Sign in. Oh, it's going to ask me to do some. I've not logged in on this for a little while, so please bear with me. Approve. Right, now I'm in, and this one's going to be API boilerplate for now. It's public, and what I'll do, I'll push all of this up so you can see it. Let's just grab this. Let's just quickly add everything. Git add, git commit, getting stuff done. Ooh. We'll do that. Then we're going to say git branch main, git push upstream origin main. That should now be up there. There we go. Let me just grab that link and I'll drop it in the chat for people. If anybody wants to see it, they will be able to access it there. And away we go. So that is all pushed up. What was I on about? I was on about something. I lost my train of thought. What was I thinking about? What was I thinking? Oh, the allow. So let's come back to arc a second, and let's come back to treble. So method limiting. So let's make some middleware for this. Make middleware allow limit middleware. So this is going to basically do some stuff. Stuff is a technical term, very scientific. We're also going to accept a program of request as request. Let's just fix that. Don't need that. So what do we need? Close your next, not a problem. And we're going to have like string allow or allows. So for now, let's just try and dump on allows. What I'm going to do quickly is in API routes, we're just going to put this down a line so that I can quickly just comment it out because I don't want it for a second. So update the doc. Handle, not that bothered. So on our API v1 bookmarks, let's just add middleware onto this. We'll tag it on the end so we can see what's going on. Middleware, allow limit middleware class. No, that's not what we want. Let's come over to Bootstrap app with middleware, alias, and we want to alias some new middleware. So allows is going to be allow limit middleware, and we are going to fix our file quickly, and we should be able to simplify that. So over here, we should be able to say we want to allows get, for example. So if we go to Aspen, send that, get, perfect. But what we also want to do within that middleware is get the current method. So request method. Send that again. This is a get request. Not bad, right? So next up, we can say if no, we don't even need to do that. This is I'm going about it all ass about face here. So the response is next request, and we're going to return that response. So response headers, add a header. We are going to add a header, and the header that we want is the allow header. So we want to add allow. The implode separator, I believe implode is the right one. Join array of elements with a string. Yes. Response headers add. This will return nothing. That's fine. So let's go to Aspen. Send headers allow get allows. Send that again. check the headers, allows. Awesome. So come back to roots. We're just going to uncomment that now. Send it again and see how it picked up on here 2 seconds ago. Perfect. So we can come down and we can check the security method limiting. It's not, it is allow, not allows. Is there a nicer way? There's got to be a nicer way. That's the values. And we are going to place as true. Let's test that, see if that's a little bit better for us. So come back to here, make sure real time is on, come to Aspen, send a request, headers, we've got an allow for get, come over to here. Is that now being picked up? Yes, method limiting is now being picked up. Perfect. So we're doing method limiting, we've got content type specification, CSP I'm not going to worry about, for secure connection. So we can set a strict transport security, which basically says enforce HTTPS in effect. MIME sniffing, X content type options, rate limiting. Isn't being picked up there. So if we come to app providers, what we are going to do in the boot method for now is just add something. First off, what I always like to do is model should be strict, rate limit for name API fallback. I believe this gets that request in there. I can't really remember, to be honest. Let's go check. Let's go check. This is, where did I last see this defined? There should be a rate limit set somewhere on this. 4 to 5 maybe. Rate limiter 4, gets a request, return limit per minute by blah, 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 blah. Rate limiter 4 for login, 2-factor. So basically, what I need is we need to return a limit per minute. Let's say our max attempts is 5 for now. And we're going to basically say that the key is the request error taken. Headers, are we adding that rate limiting yet? No, not yet. So laravel.com, let's go to the docs and let's search for rate limiting. Basic usage, rate limiter, attempt, blah, blah, blah. Is there a way I can do this on? Rate limiting. segmenting. Okay, rate limiter for rate limiter for login per minute. Attaching rate limiters to routes. Throttle. Aha. So I can add the throttle API. So we can give it like a name now. But I'm going to put these on in here because I'm assuming at this point throttle API. There we go. It needs to be authenticated at this point. So now if I come to Aspen, send it again, come to my headers, we've got my rate limit going on. If I then come back to treble, come back to my requests, should be this one. We got rate limiting and we're now passing. So when we're talking about API observability, we want to know the different metrics as to what might be going on in our API. And I like to do this during development because what it allows me to understand is what could I be doing better that I need to think about next time? What part of my API could do with improvement? As you can see, I can focus on security. I can then come over and focus on the general API and see, okay, so I could be doing better on my performance perhaps. So what's slightly wrong there? Okay, HTTP 2.3 could improve that. Security, we're doing pretty well on security, to be honest. Then quality, what could be fixed with the quality of my API? Now, error ratio, if I come back to problems, unauthenticated is going on here. That should be marked as closed. Maybe I'll just delete that for now. There you go. That one's gone. Problems. Come back to my API score, and we're getting better. So we want to see what's going on with our API at all times. Our dashboard can tell us everything that's going on, countries, how many requests per minute. Hello, ABCD. That's a very interesting name. So yeah, I can go back to my API docs. I can see all of the information. I can talk to Alfred, the API robot. Everyone needs an AI robot these days, right? I can understand my API score to see where my improvements are, understand the problems that are appearing. I can see that we got an unauthenticated problem going on here. It's the medium severity, not a big deal, but it has been closed. Understand what endpoints that we've got and keep an eye on the requests. And what we could do, we could filter these, dive down into the request. We can then share that. So if I say, I'm going to share that for 1 week, copy to clipboard, I'm going to drop this in the comments so you can see what you get. I'm not going to show that on the screen because that would just be messy. So you can understand what auth implementation is there, what parameters were passed, any documentation that's generated from the parameters from the request, what headers there are, how headers need to be handled. You can see that authorization, it is blanking that API key straight away. Same thing with that response. We then have the security audit and overall information. We can then add comments, say, not bad, could be better, let's do this. So I've added a comment. Anyone else in this project can then see that comment and we can communicate and work on this together. You can see my API score is now gone up. We are now 79 out of 100 instead of 65, I think it was. So that's API observability. We want to be able to understand what's going on in our API at all times. We are authenticating using Sanctum. We've got a throttle on our API. If I just come back to rate limiting quickly, routing, with groups, rate limiting. There's a new way that you can do things with these. You can do a custom response, limit none, segmenting, multiple rate limits, attaching them, throttling with Redis. Yeah, there was something to do with Laravel 11 that just came out where you could do something slightly different. You could do per minute and what was it? It was per minute and per second, was it? Or scheduling, exception handling, controller class, defaults, reverb, per second rate limiting, limit per second. So you can add multiple, which means that when you're kind of rate limiting, you can say, this callback, we're actually going to say we're going to return 2 rate limits. We're going to say that one, and we're going to say limit per second, max attempts. We don't want anyone to make, so if this is per minute, we don't want to make more than, I don't know, 6,000 requests a minute, but we want to add floodgates so that no one makes more than 200 requests a second. And then we can say by key, and we'll do the same one. So request bearer token. So we should be able to do that. Let's just test it on Aspen. All looking good. Send, 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 send. That's all fine. There. What more can I say? Let's share my face again. I'm back. That is how we do API observability in Laravel. It's all about understanding what's going on in your application, what's going on in your API, understanding what it is, how you can improve it as well, because just building an API, that is the easy part. Taking your API to that next level so it's better, so it's more useful. That's what you want to do. And on Aspen, you've got Alfred here as well. So how can I benchmark this request using Apache benchmark? Let's see if Alfred knows. Blah, 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 blah. Cool. Let's just copy this. And we're going to go to warp. Benchmarking. Please be patient. I'm trying to be patient. There we go. So longest request. Time per request a second. We were doing 11.37. So if we have a look at this, you'll see number of requests. Let's up that, because at this point we should hit that rate limit. So if we come back to here, we can come over to treble, requests, turn this on. You should see things flicking through quite quickly. We're hitting rate limits, lots of rate limits. Come down to our problems. We've now got lots of problems. So that one's closed. This one's open. Database is locked. So this is a problem when you're doing things locally with SQLite. You're not really scaling anything like that. But you can rate limit, test it, see how it's going on. You can start to see the problems that are appearing. Database is locked, so there's an issue with my rate limiter. I'm not able to write to my cache quick enough, which means my database cache isn't good enough. I need to use something else. Redis. And here we're getting too many attempts all the time. So we can start to look into why people are getting too many, why people are getting throttled. Is our rate limit too strict? Are there edge cases? Do we need to expand how we rate limit? Is this someone potentially causing issues? And if they are causing issues, then, okay, we need to maybe look outside of our API and go to something like Cloudflare. Let's set up some kind of DDoS filtering so that we don't get these issues all the time. We could move up the chain and stop it earlier on. And that's API observability. It is really useful. And if you're interested in what I was just using, so get Aspen, feel free to try get Aspen. It is super cool. Just share that there. And what's really cool is that you can also share the request itself. So I'm also going to share that for a week. We're going to copy it and I'm going to drop it in the comments here. So Aspen is a kind of a local first HTTP client, privacy focused, really useful, really quick. You just get what you need. It's not like Postman where you've got to then, I don't know, create an account just to send a request. It is obviously a new product. It's a free product by us at Treble. It's quite nice and quite easy to use, but you can then share. You don't have to share your whole collection. You can share just this, which means you can come to here and you can go, okay, cool. So I got given this. Obviously be careful if you're going to share because that's the bearer token that I generate for my Laravel application. I can understand what's going on, what the body was, what headers were sent back, what the rate limit at that point was. So if this ever errors, I can, someone can send me this and I can understand the exact state of their application when they sent it to me. Super duper duper useful. And obviously treble.com, go sign up, give it a go. Let us know what you think. It's really useful. We've got SDKs for all the things. I literally just released a new version of the Treble SDK a couple of days ago, which adds, there was an edge case where one specific person was trying to send a payload which was like ridiculously big. So we had to add in some checks so that stopped errors. So it just silently errors. But thank you for tuning in. It's good to be back. I'm going to do this more. Like, comment, subscribe, the YouTube stuff. I don't have one of those bell animations, but you get the drift, right? If you like it, give it a thumbs up. Aspen is for Mac only. No, we are actually releasing a Windows version really, really, really soon. Our kind of app developer who works for us internally, they built the Mac version. They're currently building the Windows version. If you use Windows and you want to give it a go, reach out to me on Twitter, on any of the millions of things I'm on. Just Steve King everywhere. Let me know. I'll see if I can get you some early access to the Windows build. But yeah, thank you for joining me. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content. Drop a comment if you've got ideas of what you want to see me to do, what you want to see me do next. Make sure to subscribe so you get notified. I'm doing lots of recorded content at the moment as well for Treble, so make sure you go to Treble's channel. I'll drop that in the description below. Make sure you go subscribe there. I've got lots of cool stuff coming out soon, which is Laravel and API focused. Not just Laravel, but lots of focused stuff. Yeah, I'm going to stop talking. Go have another coffee. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Stay awesome. Have a good day.